Big physical Hearts. Welcome to Hearts Standard. My name is Craig Cairns and I am joined, as usual, by the editor of Hearts Standard. It is Joel Sked. How are you doing, Joel?
Yes, very well. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. We have been trying to enjoy some downtime, but the announcements and the breaking news keeps coming. The subject of today's video is going to be, the first part anyway, is going to be a potential new signing. Looks like Hearts are closing in on their fourth signing of the summer window. Before that window is even opened, we're also going to have a look at the squad depth. We'll have a look through where Hearts maybe need to look to strengthen. Maybe there's a bit of surplus who could leave, things like that. But before we do all that, just say first that Hearts Standard is brought to you by S1 Jobs. And if it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to S1 Jobs and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Edinburgh and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. Okay, Joe, we are going to start this video by talking about Oisin McEntee. I believe it is pronounced McEntee. So just think of that E as an I. There's that. Yeah, exactly. There's a video on YouTube of a Walsall fan accosting his dad for the correct spelling. So that's where we that's where we got it from. Joe, you reported this today. How about you just kind of fill in the details of who this guy is and where we kind of are with it?
Yeah, so you go back to Monday when Derek McInnes spoke to Premier Sports. Getting the name of the show right. It's Premier Sports. They're like kind of social club. That's it. And he spoke with like Daryl Curry, Alan Hutton, and Michael Stewart. And he was talking about the transfer window, and he talked about it just needs a different profile in midfield. And you look at the midfield as it is just now, it's all there's a lot of kind of ball playing players in there. You're more like ball playing or slight players in there, like Cammy Devlin, really good defensively, scrappy. Benny Beningame, also good defensively, good on the ball. And then Xander Carton again, another technical player. Macaulay Tate, a technical player. Aidan Denham, you could probably look at as Cammy Devlin, because really scrappy player. And then Callum Neunhoff can do a few different roles, but there's not. And we've talked about it. You talked about Killian Phillips at St Mirren, how much you like his style of play, and I think that's what Derek McInnes wanted to add to the midfield, and they have pinpointed Oisin McEntee, and straight away people think, oh, he's a centre-back, he can play centre-back, he can play right-back, and he can play in the centre of the pitch. He's mostly played this season for Walsall centre-back. He played last season a lot in midfield before his injury, scored a few goals, assisted a few goals, was a set-piece threat, and so he was pinpointed quite early when they looked at getting a different profile of midfielder, and he is don't know quite how close it is, but I would expect it is getting close. He's certainly been up in Edinburgh this week with a view to signing, and he will certainly add presence to the midfield. He's kind of 6'3", and you look at McInnes, his previous teams, you go back to like Kelly, they've always had a big physical player in there, Liam Donnelly for one. And then even in Aberdeen, they always kind of had a mix where you can add Ryan Jack, Shinnie to begin with. And then there was a spell where he played like Don Ball, played in the midfield and had that physical presence. So yeah, McEntee is viewed, while he's versatile, while he provides a wee bit of variety to the able to play some different positions, he is viewed primarily as a centre midfielder who, having done a wee bit of research into him, has been described as athletic and described as marauding as well. So he's not someone who's just going to sit at the base of the team, but he does bring a physical presence that's probably been missing since Peter Haring, or height presence since Peter Haring. Malachi Boateng did it for a while, but he's certainly someone who can impact it further up the pitch as well.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because it does seem like a sort of very Derek McInnes signing, in that he he likes players who can go between defence and midfield, it seems. It gives you that sort of extra insurance, can be like protection against teams that play long ball and things like that. It gives you the option of the defensive midfielder providing a bit of cover, like another centre back, while fullbacks push on. Yeah, there's lots of examples. Another one's Ross McCrory, who I know was a wee bit of more of a sort of right back or a right wing back who he moved into centre midfield. He made Graham Shinney a central defensive midfielder. So yeah, it does seem like it feels very unfitting with what we kind of expect from Derek McInnes. What do you say to people who maybe, and this is going to be something that comes up quite a lot, I think, but look at the level and the club that he's being signed from, and it's not very sexy, and then people automatically then think it's not very Jamestown.
So yeah, hopefully put something up tomorrow about Jamestown and the misconception around it. And there's no Derek McInnes signing, there's no Jamestown signing. It's just a Hearts signing that all signings have to be approved by Jamestown data, and that's how it's come about. And how it works is, to simplify it, Derek McInnes goes, I would like to strengthen this position. I would like this profile of player. I'll detail all the profiles I want of that player. And then it'll be passed on to Jamestown. They'll come with options. And then it's a case of choosing which one they think is best suitable. And then they'll go and do due diligence. They'll watch footage. They'll speak with the player, etc., until it gets done.
Sorry, on you go, Cameron.
No, you're just asking about the lack of sexiness. And I was going to bring in a comment here from Ross Black, who makes a really good point. Sure, USG shopped in the League 1 or 2 market, yes.
You see the same with Brighton as well, and they made their way up, yeah.
The two of the centre backs who won the league with USG. One was signed from Accrington Stanley, I think, and then the other one was Christian Burgess, who's a veteran defender now. I can't remember who he signed from, potentially Portsmouth off the top of my head. So yeah, it's again, Hearts want to make sure there's a British core that understands and can deal with Scottish football, and it's so yeah, expect signings like these. I wouldn't rule out any market like that. So yeah, that's that.
Brighton signed Shane Duffy, and people wondered what they were doing at the time. I read that in that book recently, that I think the fans were expecting more firepower or something, and they prioritised signing Shane Duffy. And then in the weeks that passed where they didn't sign him, he scored a couple of own goals or something like that, and they still signed him, and he went on to be like a sort of, I don't know, his legendary figure too much for Shane Duffy. I know he was a bit of a joke figure when he came up here for Celtic, but he was very good for Brighton either side of that. I was going to bring in the next comment, which is a very, very fair from Ross McLean, who I definitely didn't know who this guy was before I heard his name. King Coin Cole. We've got to watch with these names that we don't have another Haywood. Great to see us looking to build a physical side. And then we've got here from Adam from Gorgie Talk. Has it been confirmed if Joe McEntee, I think he's meaning like if he is signed permanently, will he be played as a central midfielder? So there's a lots of people asking, like, is this guy a defender or a midfielder? But you understand that Hearts do want to play him as a midfielder.
Yeah, from what I believe is that he is signed primarily to play centre mid, but having someone who's a utility player is useful, especially if you can fill in a few different positions. He can play right off a back three, which is good. Had a few assists from that side, or he certainly the Walsall manager spoke about his crossing ability as well, so he can do a bit of everything as a set piece threat. And the other one I wanted to bring in was Gavin Mayer, who, this is, I'm going to be mentioning a Hibs player here, but he says Triantis vibe, and that's Triantis is, I remember the derby at Tynecastle where unfortunately lost. I thought Triantis, like on the ball, just didn't think he was great, but he does so much good stuff off the ball. And you go back to Peter Haring, when he was at his best, he was so good at just reading the game, anticipating the game, picking up on those balls, and just kind of getting in the road and being the presence. And reading stuff from Walsall manager, he talked about how basically his Oisin McEntee's kind of reading of situations, he can improvise really quickly. So I think like Triantis is, I would imagine that kind of similar to what they're aiming for, what they're going for.
Excellent. Have you anything else to add about McEntee, or should we move on to the squad depth?
I would just bring in James Govan here. Says rumours a German CM is in Edinburgh as well. Any knowledge of that, lads? I don't know. Any knowledge of that. I've seen there's been chat about another player in Edinburgh. I'm not sure who that is, but I do know that Hearts are progressing with different signing targets. Who they are, I'm not 100% sure. The German centre midfielder, I forgot his name, Soufiane El Fawzi, I think it is. He is. Hearts are interested in him, but I think there's still things up in the air with that in terms of interest from other elsewhere as well. But yes, now it's time to move on.
Brilliant. We will now talk about the squad depth. We will start. I'll bring up this graph that you had done. Again, apologies for those who are just listening, but here is the sort of what do you call these again, Joe? There's like a name for these, a depth chart. That's what it is.
Depth chart, yeah, go for that.
Depth chart. Let's go the way you've done it in the article, position by position. So goalkeepers, fullbacks, centre backs, and so on. Goalkeepers. There are options there after Craig Gordon re-signed, but there isn't a fit one yet, is there? We've certainly ended the season without a fit one.
I would hope that by the start of the season there will be a fit one. It's
Craig Gordon hopefully stops sleeping funny.
Yeah, goalkeepers is an interest. Again, an interesting one going forward. Two Scotland internationals, I think both want to play because they'll see the carrot of the 2026 World Cup. And you say that, and you look at Scotland's group, and it's a real. I think Scotland's got a real good chance of being in the World Cup for the first time since 1998. And for both of them, if they're Hearts number one, then they've got a really good chance of being Scotland's number one, just with the way the Scotland goalkeeper position is now. I think it will be very much be down to how well they perform during pre-season and in training, and then McInnes will make that decision. I wouldn't be surprised. This is me just speculating. I wouldn't be surprised if they each got a couple of games in the League Cup. And then it was taken from there, and then whoever starts the league season is got the number one jersey, and it's theirs to lose. Who that will be?
Is it a worry that Hearts are going into another season not sure not certain who the number one is? Is that a concern, or it should?
No, not necessarily.
There's depth there.
Yeah, not necessarily. I think that the more the concern would be if you're getting into the league season and you're chopping and changing. I think competition is good. I think this is a point I'll make with every player, because there's a lot of speculation. It's like, who should leave, etc., etc. I would say I would imagine there's just a clean slate for everyone. There'll be some who McInnes feels that will need to move on, but when it comes to trying to perform, and I would say that every player would likely, from compared to last season, improve under McInnes, and it will still be a strong squad. And then I wouldn't write anyone off, but of course there will be guys who leave. But you look at the goalkeeper position, don't think there's anyone penciled in right now. So if you look at the two past seasons, so last season when Craig Gordon was number one, and then the season before when Zander Clark was number one, if you just looked at the kind of the raw data, Zander Clark has performed better in terms of keeping the ball at the back of the net. But McInnes will no doubt have his own view on that, and be good looking forward to getting to pre-season and be able to chat to him and get his view on things. But yeah, at the moment, Hearts are in a healthy position goalkeeper-wise.
Before we go on to the outfield players, bring in a comment here. Somebody, an old friend of mine, Chris Valens, he's saying very excited for the new season. Hopefully McInnes scraps the passing about the eye-bleeding football and adopts a more direct style of play. Now, I think there was less there may be a wee bit more creeped in towards the end of Critchley's time of the passing around the back. But I think there was a significant improvement on that front under Critchley without it becoming like a direct style of play. But we do expect, regardless of how McInnes sets up, we do expect him to be direct, at least in a sense. We don't necessarily mean shelling long balls to a target man.
Yeah. There'll be. I don't think we can. I don't think we'll. There'll be lots of passes around the back, which I think we can all agree is very frustrating to watch. And you need. I think you just need a certain types. We had a really nice balance under Robbie Neilson with that back three, where you had John Souttar and Stephen Kingsley who could both step out, and John Souttar was able to switch play really well. And I think that's something that's really key. Is that I don't think Hearts have had, over the last 18 months or so, an effective player who's been able to switch play as well. So that might be something that McEntee might be good at, but Tom Irving's going to do a big lowdown on him. So hopefully find out more on after he signs, if he signs, etc., etc. But yeah, in terms of building out from the back, I don't think the goalkeepers will have to be having to be passing it a lot. Which for me is fine.
Let's go on to the fullbacks. Right back, we have Christian Borchgrevink. I don't know. Have you got a better pronunciation?
No, I think that's correct as far as I'm aware.
Borgie. We'll call him Borgie or something.
I think Valerenga called him Borch.
The Borch. And you've mentioned that the should he sign McEntee, he can fill in there as well. And at left back, there's James Penrice, Stephen Kingsley, and Harry Milne. I think, both of those positions, I suppose, are looking decent going into the new season. I don't know what the deal will be with Forrester. I suppose it'll be up to Derek McInnes to decide whether he sees him as somebody to challenge for a first team spot, whether he's a squad player, whether he should go on loan. I think that'll become clear, but I don't think there's going to be any rush to get him out on loan or anything like that, because he will at least be good cover for Borch. And he's the Norwegians are real sort of unknown at this moment as well.
Yeah, I think just looking at the fullback situation as a whole, I think it's another one that's not a priority at the moment. That will change obviously if players leave, i.e. James Penrice. I would expect, not heard anything concrete. There's obviously been a lot of speculation. Not heard anything concrete around him, but I would expect I would hope there'd be interest, because he was excellent last season. Put Kingsley in at left back just because we talked about it the other day, and I can see his ability to play left back and left centre back in certain situations. And then there's Harry Milne, with still high hopes for going forward as well. So fullback position is looking relatively healthy at the moment. Forrester's an interesting one, where you're looking to have a backup for Borchgrevink, but also I think to help Forrester's development, he could do with playing regular football as well. So I don't know if that might be one that's later on in the window that they might think what's best for him is maybe to go out on loan, depending on potential outgoings and arrivals.
Similar state of affairs at centre half, especially with two of the fullbacks. I know it looks quite light there on the left-sided centre half position, especially if, as we expect, Neilson isn't really going to be part of the plans. But Kingsley and Milne can both fill in that left-sided centre back, as well as Jamie McCart. And then you've got for the right side Craig Halkett, Steinwender, and Kent.
And potentially McEntee as well.
Exactly, yeah. So there seems to be plenty cover around there. If anything, could be one or two that leave from that.
Yeah, as I wrote in the piece I put this morning, I think it's at the moment there's certainly not a priority position, and something we talked about the other day is that the priority positions are kind of middle to front, and it's more about if you're looking to trim the squad down, which is something that's going to happen. We spoke about it with Graham Jones, and I kind of asked them. I think a couple of folk have asked about the size of the squad, and they don't want to put any numbers on it. But what they would say both in terms of ingoings and outgoings, incomings and outgoings, and the squad numbers. But there needs to be a balance. I think last season Hearts didn't have the right balance. There was too many players in certain positions, and then at the moment it's still a heavy squad. So players will move on, and you look at the centre backs where there's potentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 options at centre back, and you would imagine that you'd expect a couple to move on. Lewis Nielsen, it's hard to see where he fits into the situation. And then you look up at the makeup of the defence, and I'm not sure if you carry both Halkett and Kent. But again, 2 defenders that McInnes would probably like just with their attributes. But like I said, it's hard to see the number of defenders that Hearts have at the moment going into the start of the season.
Kent and Halkett are actually quite good together as well. So you can definitely see McInnes being a fan of the two of those. But again, midfield looks quite similar, especially where it seems like we're adding McEntee into every position here at the moment. Again, there might be a wee bit of movement there. We've got Benny Beningame, Cammy Devlin, Callum Newhoff, Xander Khartoum, Macaulay Tate, and Aidan Denham. Aidan Denham, similar to Lewis Nielsen, you wonder whether he will survive the season at Hearts, whether he'll maybe move on or get a loan or something like that.
He's still out injured, so he doesn't really come back. I don't think he comes back into the fold until during pre-season as well. I
didn't realise that was still ongoing, but that's quite a lengthy time now, isn't it? I
think he had another. I think on his recovery there was a slight issue. I think from what I heard, but it seems like he'll be back at some similar with Finlay Pollock, back sometime during pre-season. I would imagine if things go smoothly.
Macaulay Tate's quite an interesting one. He's had a very, could argue, the most productive loan out of all of them, even though it was one of the shorter ones. I mean, Liam McFarlane would maybe have an argument against that. But Macaulay Tate has come back with a Cup Winners' Medal in the Challenge Cup and experience of being in a title battle that went to the wire and then coming through the playoffs. Where do you see him fitting in next season? Do you think he is someone that gets a chance at Hearts, or do you think they maybe see another loan? I believe did you write something to the effect that he, because of his contract length, he's not in an immedate rush to get into
So, I mean, he's just with him got another 3 years on his deal. He's got a lot of breathing space, and Hearts have got. I think there's a good situation there where doesn't need to come in this season, and it's like not make or break for him. I think he can come in and he can get a sense of it. McInnes get a sense of him. I think longer term, I think he can step into that, like kind of doing what Benny does or what Devlin does. We've seen it. Livingston he was very good out of possession. He's really tenacious. He's mobile. He can cover ground, and he's really good on the ball. And he recycles it well, but he also progresses it really well as well. They raved about him at Livingston. They couldn't believe he had dropped down to the Championship to play there. And so you look at him, if McInnes looks at it and he's not going to get loads of game time coming forward this season, then a move to a team in the Premiership, get a Premiership loan would be ideal for him. Potentially back to Livingston where they really, really liked him, and then getting that experience for trying to play regular football. But I do think the best thing for him, for his development, is that he continues to play regularly next season. And who knows, if certain players go, it could open up at Hearts. But interesting summer for him. But the main thing is if he continues to play regular football to continue his development, because we've seen it on loan at Livingston. There's real potential there.
I don't know if I don't think we really need to go into Benny or Devlin. We kind of know what they offer. What about what's more interesting is maybe what's going to happen with Callum Nieuwenhof and Sander Khartoum. Do you see either of them fitting into how McInnes wants to set up?
Nieuwenhof more than Khartoum. I just look at Khartoum as if Derek McInnes wants to play with two wingers, then I don't think he's getting. He's not playing in the midfield two. He could potentially play in a midfield three if McInnes went for a midfield three, or alternatively, if it was a 4-4-2 and McInnes wanted to play with one winger and someone tucked in. And I think Khartoum could potentially play that role. And then there's the potential to play as a number 10, but we've not really seen that. And there'll be, I think there's others that could play that role as well. So he's the one that intrigues me the most, and certainly got a lot of question marks around where he can fit into that system. Because when I mentioned playing as like a narrow wide player that we've seen before, Jeffries used to play it. Nielsen played it in his first spell as well. Just that wide player tucked in, and it allowed the fullback to go round, and it allowed the winger, a more natural winger on the left side. I think Spittle can do that role as well. I think I've put Spittle on the left-hand side of this graphic, but I think he could potentially be a midfield option in certain circumstances as well. Nieuwenhof, I do think there's definitely something there, and I think McInnes would like certain elements of his game. One thing I would say is that even with McEntee signing, I would still imagine another option potentially coming in at centre midfield, and then more obviously if depending on outgoings.
Trying to keep up with the comments, man, but it's impossible.
It's impossible. Yeah,
I'm just trying to bring in ones by position, but I just cannot find. Like, there's people having conversations. I mean, I'm not having a go. It's good that people are getting involved, but I have completely lost track of them all. Just to kind of pick up on something you've said there, as we move on to the wingers, we'll leave the ones that are kind of more natural wide options for now, because given what Derek McInnes has said, the noises he's made, the way he set up his teams often in the past, he likes wingers, direct wingers, whether they're inverted or just like chalk on the boots, go outside their man wingers. That's what he likes to have. That would suggest that maybe Spittle or Danda, if there's a role for them in the team, it's not going to be out on the left wing like it was previously. I don't know if you think the same.
Yeah, I would. Again, the only, if we were playing again, if they were going to play wide, then it would be like, I would imagine, kind of tucked in. But as YouTube Disciple says, Danda, natural ACM. Khartoum, when I watched him for, who did we sign him from? The team that played St Mirren in Europe.
It wasn't
Tromsø.
That was Kilmarnock. It'll come to us.
His previous side, he played on the right of a midfield three. But yeah, I think that Danda, feel sorry for him. He's number 10, never really had to go through and then his natural position. Both him and Spittle. Bran, that's it. Both him and Spittle came to Hearts having had a really good season as number 10s. Derek McInnes, I think there's going to be, I would imagine there's going to be flexibility. Adam talked about, based on shaping the team, you're assuming there's no focus on a formation with a 10. I think there'll be pragmatism, there'll be flexibility. I wouldn't rule out. So it could be back three sometimes. It could be 4-4-2. It could be 4-3-3. I also wouldn't rule out 4-2-3-1 as well. And you've got, as we're reading, his number 10. McInnes played that a few times with Aberdeen. So I think the big thing with this squad is to have the best balance and options as possible. And that means having players that can play number 10. But again, Spittle, Danda and Khartoum, it's easy to see, do you need to carry all three? That's it. I think Spittle offers the most variety, and McInnes has spoken positively about both Dander and Spittle. He was interested in bringing them to Kilmarnock before they went to Hearts as well. So, it's fascinating. I just think, like, going forward, there will be hopefully a lot of flexibility and variety in the squad.
But yeah, as you said, there's going to have to be decisions on letting some people go, because you can't just keep adding. We're expecting more signings, and you can't just keep adding to this squad. It was too big last season. Kizaridis, new signing, who seems to be the profile that the club's looking for. The club continues to pursue Islam Chesnikov, and then left over from last season, returning from loan at Wraith with an injury. I don't know. You maybe up. Is he recovered from injury, Finlay Pollock?
Yeah, so he'll be. I think he was aiming for pre-season.
Right. There's Alan Forrest and there's Musa Drama. Now, I'll go out on a limb here and say that Musa Drama is not going to survive under Derek McInnes. Alan Forrest, I would give much more of a chance. I think he will potentially be a useful squad player for McInnes over the season. Pollock, again, as we've asked with the other sort of younger / loan players, how do you kind of see? Do you see him having a chance at all over the next season?
I think it'll come down to, for him, pre-season, having to impress in pre-season. There's
possibly even as another forward option, given how he finished his time at Wraith.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say was that there's currently Wilson, Cabangu and Vargas who all like to run in behind, so there's plenty of options there. Kizaridis, I think, again, club are trying to sign Chesnikov. Would it rule out another winger as well? Because if you go back to what McKenna said on Monday, he talked about hugs the touchline winger. Hearts don't really have that. Pollock was that when he went to Wraith. Kizaridis and Chesnikov, if he arrives, are inverted wingers. And then Forrest, I actually think he's better on the left and driving into kind of as we've seen under Liam Fox. So that's I think there's some more to come from wide areas.
There's a fair point here from Adam where he says, feel sorry for Musa, another victim of constant change. His stats had him highest after Shanklin for goal threats. All the best to him when he likely goes. I think that's quite fair. I do think, for me, Musa, there's very possibly a player in there. But for me, there's just too much discrepancy between what he's good at and what he's bad at. I just think there's wild swings in what he's good at and what he's bad at. His effort and his defensive shift is really, really good. I think he goes under the radar how much of a shift he actually puts in. He's very busy. He's got a bit of chaos about him. He can finish. He can definitely finish, and he seems to get in the right areas. I just question his decision making, and I think his poor touch lets him down a fair bit as well.
There's something in it. You see when he comes on, he's like, I still have the feeling that he could do something. Like, just he can be get himself in the right area. I think Adam says it here. Had the unpredictability of Ricardo Fuller. I wouldn't go as far as comparing him to Ricardo Fuller, but I agree with the unpredictability aspect of it. Jim Ogg says every club needs a vibes player, and Musa Zauer. That's a really.
I'm actually surprised by how much people are defending him. Not that I knew that he kind of splits opinion a wee bit, but I'm surprised to see so many people backing him here.
Yeah. He is. You look around the squad, and we all want to upgrade it, and you see the wide players, the wide positions as an easy, obvious place to upgrade. And it's one of those where even if he was to move on, would you want to cut your ties completely? Might be, again, someone, because he's young, go out on loan, get regular game time if it's potentially maybe in Scotland, and then he's still got another year if he came back and had even if it was 6 months, he'd still have 18 months left on his deal. So yeah, but I just think you're looking at the wide areas, and it's an obvious area where the club need to upgrade, and that's what they're trying to do.
And finally, we'll move to the centre forward positions. At the moment, there's James Wilson, Kenneth Vargas, Elton Kabangu signed this week, and we expect Lawrence Shankland to sign on, although that's definitely not a certainty. Now, I suppose to deal with that first.
Yeah, sorry,
I was just going to say, like, what Hearts do a lot will largely depend on whether in this area Shankland signs or not, won't it?
Yeah. If you asked me, like, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, how I felt about Shankland's staying or going, I would have said 90%. I feel like that he's going, and now it's 50-50, maybe teetering on 60-40 that he stays. But again, that's pure gut. I'm not. There's obviously been a lot of speculation on social media the last 24 hours. You had talks with McInnes on Tuesday. I think we'd all, the vast majority of us, anyone, I think every Hearts fan should be wanting him to stay, because it is waited 30 years for a 20 goal a season striker, and we finally got one. You don't want to let someone leave, but again, there's lots of things to consider. I think both him and, well, I know, having spoken to him at the end of the last season, ideally he said he would have his future decided before pre-season, so he knows which club he's going to in pre-season. I think it's probably good that he's not gone away with Scotland for the two friendlies. It probably gives him a proper summer off. Hopefully that's to benefit Hearts next season. And then for the Hearts side of things, you want stuff that you want to know sooner rather than later, so you can start moving on if he doesn't want to sign. What I would say, I think the fact that it's Derek McInnes, that's a real positive and a real hope within the talks that he can stay. But again, there's so many things for him to consider, and quite rightly, you want to make sure he looks at, and his representatives look at, all the other options. So yeah, fingers crossed he stays. And if he does, it makes the club's life a lot easier. So it means that they're not having to stress too much over another replacement. Whereas, like, you're looking now, you're probably wanting, as things stands, maybe one more, if Shankland stays, one more different profile type of striker. But with Kabangu signing, and if Shankland stays, then it's taking a lot of pressure off having to bring in forwards. What
kind of profile do you have in mind there?
Going back to the first words you said, big physical Hearts. So just a target man type. Because you look at the makeup just now. So Kabangu, great running behind. Wilson can do a bit of everything. Vargas, he's one really interested to see how his summer goes, and how McInnes use him. But again, we've seen his ability to run in behind. And then Shankland is a number 9 who can build and link play. Don't think there's few better than him in the whole of Scottish football at doing what he does as a number 9 and the way he links play. So I always just think a Scottish Premiership team should have a aerial threat, and Shankland is really underrated in there. I think in the box he is a brilliant header, but to have another kind of target man type, a more traditional target man type, I think would be of a huge benefit.
And just to go into the comments on this, Mano Mystery, he says, I hope we sign another number 9. Last season's offerings scare me going into a new season. Now, I think that's a fair point. I think it should be appreciated that there's a new manager, kind of like fresh start and all that kind of stuff. But looking at it right now, it's especially close to last season, albeit adding in Kabangu from the start of the season rather than halfway through it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it on, well, this is our third show this week. I think we talked about it was either yesterday or the day before, and you looked at, I think it was yesterday, where it would have been made a massive difference having Kabangu from the start, or having someone like him from the start. What I would also add is Wilson is a year older, a year more experience, and will do the world of good. Again, Vargas is that wild card because we all expected him to kick on this past season. He didn't really do it. And then I would also add in the fact that if Hearts do manage to sign Chesnikov, that you would now have two wingers who have recent track records of scoring goals, which adds a whole different dimension to the front three, or the front area.
A couple of comments here. Oh, actually, I think it's from the same guys. Maybe just ask it again. Sorry, Danny Scott. The article was fantastic. Some praise for your article there. Do you think Ronan Hale would be a good fit at Hearts even if Shanklin stays? Now, I bring this in because you're mentioning the profile of striker, more looking like somebody bigger than Hale, like more of a target man than Hale. So is because of the options Hearts already have, does that rule out not just Hale, but like another option like Hale?
Yeah, I would be surprised. I think you could compare. I think there's similarities. Again, I've not seen Hale, not watched him loads. Seen him against Hearts, seen him in an odd county game that I've not involved Hearts, and I think there's similarities to Kabangu. I think you're signing someone who, well, he's a very good finisher, good striker, who also has there's other guys in the team that you'd hope that would step up to kind of that level or provide more.
Adam says enter Sam Dalby. Abe Berry suggests Danny Armstrong, although I think if Chesnikov is to be completed, that probably rules out Armstrong. I mean, I know that there was previous with Armstrong. I don't know if there's any interest still there whatsoever.
As far as I'm aware, I would caveat everything with transfers that things can change very quickly. But as far as I'm aware, Hearts have moved on from Danny Armstrong. But who knows what this summer will bring. And
there was a wee bit of frostiness between him and McInnes last season, wasn't it? Not that I'm saying that to the point where they wouldn't work together again or anything like that, but I think there was a wee bit to do with Armstrong maybe wanting out of the club or something like that.
I think both of them spoke positively the last time they spoke about it.
Yeah, they said they got over it and stuff, and they moved on from it. But I think there was a wee bit. Like I say, I don't think it was anything that was going to preclude them from ever working together again. Surely Khartoum starts in the 10. That's what he was signed for. Now I think you kind of said something.
I don't think he was signed as a 10.
You suggested that potentially him playing there, didn't you? And you said the issue is that having Khartoum, Spittle, and Danda. Is it worth keeping Khartoum out? Is there an argument for Khartoum out of the three because he's left-footed?
I think there's again, like I said, there's an argument for him because he signed him and he's contracted until 2027. But he was signed as Darren Ross says when we spoke to Neil Critchley at the event, and
he wanted the same.
He wanted to play him as on the right hand side, cutting in. And then he didn't really play him there. And then he played him in the diamond. And then he played as the right side of a midfield three for Bran. And he was kind of seen as tucking in off the right hand side. And I'd imagine he could play number 10. Again, he gets important. I think what I would say is that he's had 6 months of acclimatation to Scottish football. And then he gets like a pre-season will be massive for him. And I would, if he stays and McInnes sees him as part of the squad, I think he will be. I would expect him to be a positive contributor to that wherever he plays.
I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. For both him and Steinwender, I think it should be remembered that both of them came in at a sort of out of sync with the rest of the squad. Yeah. So I know that this more applies to Khartoum than Steinwender, because I know that Steinwender has some credit in the bank, or more credit in the bank than Khartoum, I would say. But they both deserve a pre-season and a chance to prove themselves, and while they're in sync with the rest of the squad. Unless there are any other things that you want to bring in, any other comments or anything like that, we should maybe wrap it up, Joe. We've been here a fair amount.
Yes. I believe I've bored enough people with my ramblings.
Thanks to everybody for getting involved. It did seem to get people talking. There is work to do there. We know more will come in, and that inevitably means, as we're kind of like going on about throughout that some are going to have to leave. It's just not obvious who is going to be trimmed off the squad in some cases.
Yeah, and there's also the fact that to move players on, you need clubs to be interested in them, and it needs to work for Hearts. I also need to work for the player as well. So, and there's no one off the table for Hearts, and I think that's what it's going to be like going forward, where everyone is always available for transfer, as long as if a team comes in and meets evaluation or exceeds evaluation, then there's a good chance that Hearts are waving goodbye to said players.
And the players that we thought a few months ago that, even though under contract, would probably find a way out of the club one way or another in the summer, but with it being a blank slate, that's probably changed a few minds and things like that. And I mean, it applies to even like people like Shankland, who we thought was out the door. Looks like he could be staying. I have linked both the articles that we've spoken about today, which you can find on heartstandard.co.uk. They're both linked in the description. One's the news article about Oisin McEntee, and I learned how to say the second name so much that I have to think about how you say the first name. It's like Oshin but in, so it's like Oshin, I think is how you say it. And Joel's very good lengthy article about the squad depth position by position and what kind of needs to be looked at and where there could be players moving on. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And until then, we'll be back at some point. I don't know the regularity that we've been doing them so far. Are we just patching tomorrow now, Joel? Or are we going to be back on tomorrow?
No, we'll take tomorrow off because we're going to do our unless something happens. We'll do our reward show some point next week. I've got a tea time tomorrow, so I'm hoping to take a few hours break from work to get some golfing.
So we'll be back at the start of next week, most likely. Thanks everybody for joining in. We'll catch you all soon.